curiously enough, it's gonna be the exact same matchup. So you're gonna be seeing a bit of a with a different player on the other side. So what kind of spawn do we get this time between the players? So, looks like the gold for Taker is gonna be actually rather nice. It's maybe a bit further away, but still kinda good position. Behind the base and everything. So he's gonna be able to work with that well. Of course, the woodline kinda nice. Again, she actually double woodline next to him. That's gonna be very easy to potentially wall in between. And maybe keep it safer. You can see that the berries are also not entirely terribly far away. Though they are gonna be a bit more exposed. Would be maybe nicer if actually the forest was slightly to the left. And more actually blocking the berries from that direction. Now he's gonna be having also hunt here. That's right now looking at Taker, so... No, definitely don't envy him too much anyway. As obviously against the French, not everything is basically exposed that is not right next to your base. But yeah, this doesn't seem like too much of a terrible situation. I think he can be playing fine here, as you can see going for the housey first. And apparently going for the woodline. So therefore that is kind of like the build order that I effectively started with. And I was playing, that's a bit more like an Age of Empires 2 build order. We are going for the wood soon, or the first. Age of Mythology actually as well. There you also want to be starting with some wood before gold. But here, of course, if you want to be advancing quick, you need to be getting the gold fast and one of the first resources, because, yeah, well, you need to be actually paying for that to advance into the next stage, which is very interesting switch. I'm kind of thinking slightly that it's actually done just on so that they feel a bit different than classic Age of Empires and other Age of Empires games. So I'm thinking it's basically just a change to be different instead of having some actual logic behind it besides that. And I'm thinking there are actually a decent amount of things like this as well, because otherwise you have Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition, right? So I guess they just kind of felt they need to be doing something just purposefully in a weird way so that they are not the same. But at the same time I'm thinking that in plenty of the things they actually missed and they are just reinventing the wheel and just not entirely helping in the design department too much. Well, this one is, I'm kind of guessing, slightly interesting. It's gonna be changing the build orders, which means that potentially the switch needs to be at least somewhat mediated. So you're gonna be just basically playing Age of Empires 2, switching into here, and it's gonna be the same 1-for-1. So I guess that's at least something maybe good, I guess. But we'll still see that Age of Empires 2 players are playing pretty nicely. But considering what kind of players actually advance into the main event, it seems to be fairly spread out between the games. Age of Empires 2, Age of Mythology, and of course on top of it also StarCraft. But in the end, well, nobody from Age of Empires 3, which maybe slightly actually surprises me. But it's gonna be also partly because, for example, Give You Anxiety wasn't participating. I'm really actually wondering what's the story, if it was mentioned somewhere. But from what I understood, it's having something to do that he was kind of like heavily involved with the development or whatever. And it would be kind of looking weird that he was having effectively extra practice above everybody else. But at the same time, like plenty of top players actually did have that. Not only the streaming beta or the streaming kind of like game, but even like a week before, plenty of players were already playing. And 7 out of 8 players that advanced into the main event actually had that early access. On one hand, you could be thinking they were good players already, so it was expected they're gonna be advancing anyway. On the other hand, having like 2 weeks extra, kinda it does help, right? So you're gonna get some better understanding of the game and appreciation of it all. Sorry. Yeah, it's just gonna, of course, not entirely too ideal for the tournament and, of course, its perception overall. But nonetheless, Pharaon is gonna be in the very fast advance, something that we have seen from Kasva previously. You can see this is gonna be right now advanced for about 5 minutes for the British. Of course, we gathering right now the gold and already preparing with the tower. So yeah, he's gonna definitely knowing what to expect from his opponent. As well, that's an interesting position of the School of Cavalry for right now the Mexican player, Pharaon. Apparently trying to protect the gold mine with it. which is a good idea, and it's also gonna be meaning that it's gonna be overall safer behind the TC. So remember what we talked about in the last game. That is certainly a bit that will be probably talked about, I'm thinking, a lot in the coming weeks, maybe even months, when the meta is gonna be kinda settling, but kinda depends if it's gonna be settling, because if there's gonna be some balance upgrade and update soon, then of course everything can be quite a bit turned on its head. If there are gonna be some significant differences, but in the end the advance is really kinda late, 5.5, that's certainly maybe a bit too much. You can see Spory dropping right now, barracks though, but that's at least correct. So you're gonna be seeing archers together with the spears, so I'm certainly enjoying that, and that should be making for, well, a whole lot harder game for Pharaon therefore. As he obviously does have some first 90s. Oh, wow, that was actually attempt at tower. Didn't even notice that earlier, huh. So that apparently happened. Can actually somewhere go back? Apparently you cannot. Just kind of wondering if you can be somehow just gonna start in again as it is in the previous games in the observing, but yeah, well, I'll be probably wanting too much for something to be actually working logically here. With observing rats and whatever. It's not exactly something that the developers focused upon. Blacksmith coming up. Maybe the blacksmith is way too early here. I'm not certain what he's gonna be wanting to upgrade there. As maybe some defense, maybe attack. I really don't know, because early, of course, early on the game, the resources are quite a bit scarce, and obviously, or scarce, sorry, it's not scarce. And therefore you don't get too many resources to even invest into it, especially the gold. It's quite a bit intensive. On the other hand, you are not really costing yourself any gold as far as the units, because of course spears and archers are gonna be without that. At the same time, it also means that you don't have to be even gathering gold, as we have seen sometime when playing with the English. And they just basically gonna be gathering gold for the advance and then just screw everything and going full on onto wood and food to give themselves as much of an echo for the important resources that they really do need. Yeah, they do have a bit of a funny sound, the deer, when they try to run away, or they try to run away and they get spooked. But you can see a Pharaoh is trying to find some way into the enemy base from the back. We'll be even getting a ram from that, a little adventure. But he's basically aiming for the gold, which will be well protected. He's gonna be able to really defend himself or hide himself there nicely. But yeah, he's gonna be getting a kill at least once, so that's nice. Could have been potentially splitting it, but he was having 3 horses, so I'm kinda guessing it was alright. Wasn't too likely he's gonna be actually able to get more kills than 1. Unless, of course, Taker wouldn't be paying attention at all, which wasn't the case. He can be ready with some apparently early wall-in, or the early wall-in, so for Pharaon, sorry. As it looks like he wants to be safe, and it's gonna be fairly easy even here to the top side. Looks like that the forest is going all the way to the side of the map, so no problem there. And, well, the lone spearman here, unfortunately, will be a unit thrown away. That's something that you cannot exactly afford in the early stages, for obvious reasons. Villagers. Okay. I'm listening. Maybe he really wants to be going for that tower. Maybe really. Currently 22 units. As far as the Echo for Taker, gonna be having 35 for Pharaoh. That's not only because of the difference of faster creation time for Pharaon. That is simply because, unfortunately, it looks like Taker is having some idle time on the TC. As he's gonna be going for the hunt to the right, that's making very good sense. Gonna be probably also well hidden and hard for the opponent to find. As he apparently already switching into archery, exactly as we should be. And he's having a decent number of them already. And yeah, that's gonna be the little tower attempted. But not entirely certain he's gonna be actually able to get it done. No, apparently well, because that was quite a nice micro battle currently for Taker. As he very nicely sniping the archers, because otherwise there wasn't too much of a problem with this overall. He was having still the spears, nice fighting against them, that's exactly what you want. So yeah, that was kind of well actually micro, because if he was shooting of course against the horses, you'll be even quite possibly losing the battle. But that didn't of course happen. And while we do have some charge from the back coming back, yeah, the tower is gonna be... Is it? Yeah, it's... Okay, villager dead, but the second is gonna be finishing. Oh no, that was only one villager. I was actually thinking there were two. Jesus Christ, that's literally absolute last second currently. Jesus. That's a tough one at this point for Taker. We almost make it work. Well, they made it work, but well, gonna have to be trying one more time and later. So we still won't be having upgrades yet. Besides the attack, looks like a Taker already does have upgrade into a damage for the arrows. Otherwise, on the other side, we don't see anything yet for Pharaon. Gonna be at a new TC to the left side, sure. But who is going there? Okay, those villagers here somewhere from the top. Maybe they're just going kind of through the shorter way because there's the wall all around. So that could be the case. Let's have a look at maybe eco upgrades. We seem to be having the first one on the felling of the trees. Otherwise, for the food we're gonna be having on hand because yeah, it's making very good sense. Considering he's having good amount of food there. No, and for Taker, we are gonna be having on the economy nothing on wood. For the blacksmith, we are yet again having just that one attack that we have seen. Otherwise, nothing on gathering the gold. And we apparently going to be also having siege weapons getting ready. It seems like there's absolutely nothing here from mill. Right now, just looking, I was already noticing that on Saturday that you have with the English the enclosures. And that's a very interesting video since and from about like a month or two ago from Kings and Generals about enclosures in England, what it actually is. That's an interesting bit of piece of information on how the medieval England actually developed as far as the land and why it actually today or kind of like developed into few people at the top owning most of the land in the country. And then the majority having basically nothing. So that's enclosure was one of the reasons for that. Very interesting video. So definitely recommend Kings and Generals. They're having very cool topics covered, not only battles. They're also having some economics and societal and cultural things from the past, which is always very interesting to learn about how it actually worked back then and how people lived and under what conditions. Okay, so apparently army is actually not too terrible currently for Taker. Looks like that Pharaon might be having some slight work ahead of him. Even having apparently melee resistance upgraded. Nice. Gonna be having berries, sure. Oh, poor scout just getting... Oh well. Completely demolished. But we don't have too many upgrades. We actually do have upgrade into attack. Yeah, we have one upgrade into attack. We are currently into 30. Yeah, that is okay. Can see. Bloomer is already in. And even Wheelbarrow is getting researched. So he's introducing some better economy into the battlefield here, as that's actually kind of solid army. Definitely not strong enough from Pharaoh, to be honest. He needs to be maybe returning back with all the rest. And yes, if he does, if he's gonna be putting all of it together, I'm thinking it might be enough. But he just needs to be also preparing a few more archers. One archer range is certainly not enough. I think he needs to be getting a second one. I mean, like the wood is barely there, but he's having plenty of gold he's not using. So he can theoretically just move villages from that. And could be having a decent success with it. And now I'm thinking actually he could be happy that he actually built the landmark, the School of Cavalry, into the back. Because if it was standard forward, then it looks like he could be actually very easily losing it. But yeah, frankly, looks like that. No, I mean, basically I will be not even taking care of that. Especially not with the knight. The villages could be good enough to defend against the Rams, but you can see the knight is going to be just completely demolishing everything else. And that's the huge problem with them and why they are so dangerous, because they are so incredibly strong that they are able to basically demolish even their counter units effectively. If you're going to be careful enough with them and of course having some decent charges. Which exactly happened for Pharaon. No, and it's going to be time for Taker to right now rethink his plan. That was a brave assault, but seems like he's going to be paying for that. with the blood of his soldiers and probably even villages later on. So at least second barracks coming up, as you do have wheelbarrow completed for Mr. Pharaon. You can see right now economy for Pharaon is gonna be at 55. Only 28 for Taker. So yet again you can see a huge difference, and that's not only, and that's not because there would be any kind of high losses for Taker, because there weren't really raidings. It's only because he's simply not clicking new villages in. Like probably half the time. We're gonna be seeing it better on the graph after the game is gonna be done. So that's gonna be of course important to note and notice. No, and here we go. You can see it on some farmers of course ready next to the berries, because obviously as in English you want to be having it next to the mill for the extra gathering bonus that you are able to get from the mill. You can see 15, 20, so we have a 20% bonus in the feudal age, which is really massive bonus. Really with the bonuses they didn't kind of like, they weren't too scroogey. They just went for huge numbers, like significantly huge. I'm thinking that plenty of that is gonna be probably toned down as the time is gonna be moving on, because it really, the numbers are just absolutely insane. At the same time it also means that you are gonna be quite clearly setting what kind of design path and what kind of way you should be playing the game. And therefore like basically just trying to use the bonuses, because they really give you something instead of playing maybe something generic like standard units, and then whoever is gonna be having some base economy better and better maneuvering is gonna be winning. Whereas here you are with the high bonuses motivated to be using them appropriately and therefore getting the most out of your civilization. Okay. Nonetheless, the second PC is of course quite a huge problem currently for Taker. That's another reason why of course he's falling behind on the resources in total. As it looks like he's not gonna be really having any important upgrades at all. Like literally nothing on the eco. As you're gonna be getting at least horticulture as well. Extra for Pharaon. He's probably gonna be getting ready for... Surprise, he's not getting ready for the special pick. But the wood is there. And where was the blacksmith? There to the top side, which is gonna be already including something more. Not really. Seems like that he's happy with also, for example, the siege weapons that he can be making with the archers therefore. So I guess he got inspired by the early attack. I'm really thinking that he got. And while there is some kind of small raiding, it's really just a small party. One and one, some friends trying to kill a few people. So nothing problematic, and we are apparently moving forward with an aggressive archer range. It's just gonna waiting, I guess, for the resources for Pharaon. For the wood to be able to get the ram down for the offensive. Otherwise, kind of thinking that maybe he could be wanting to put the army into one spot. And into one group, especially the horses. Because at this point I'm thinking he's having decent enough numbers that he could be dangerous in a way. That he might be even taking down buildings. Looks like the charge didn't entirely work out all that fully. We got like one charge into him. Nothing else. Now if he's actually pulling the army this way, then Pharaon should be coming with the other group from the other side. Just kinda like running into the farms here. And basically doing that from each side and kinda seeing how Taker is gonna be reacting. And how well he's gonna be able to manage it. You can see he's gonna be able to hide in the tower well in time. But yeah, well, he seems to be waiting only for them from the top so that he attacks with that. But still thinking that's not necessary to be waiting in that kind of way. We have some new upgrades? Doesn't seem so, right? Yeah, we apparently have an attack. I'm thinking that we have upgraded for Taker from the blacksmith. But nonetheless, you can see, of course, the army here doesn't stand any kind of single chance. Could be getting melee resistances Pharaon though. But nonetheless, he's gonna be advancing to castle. You can see the resources also pretty huge. So he's gonna be probably soon clicking even in the Royal Knights. It looks to me that maybe he even doesn't have to, as you do have a decent amount of archers here to support against the pikemen or other spearmen. And of course the knights, as we just mentioned, they are incredibly powerful and strong. And yep, this looks like the same situation as we have seen in the last game. And therefore, well, army destroyed. And that should be pretty much it as well, because obviously replacing this kind of army looks to be pretty much impossible, especially when we see what is already happening in Taker's base. He's gonna be at 20 villages, and even though he did get actually decent upgrades, you can see everything besides the archer defense, or the defense against archers. Yeah, it definitely looks like that with Terem coming up, it is going to be a GG already called, and Pharaon is gonna be winning even the second round, and the third round is gonna be waiting for him. To entirely right now remember who is gonna be there for the opponent, but you're gonna get that knowledge soon. So let's close this, let's put in that, and 1-0. No, I know the stats. As I mentioned, you're gonna be probably seeing on the villages, yeah, that unfortunately Taker was for a long time basically not making villages, only kinda barely. He was way more investing into army. And of course, economy tends to be the most important part of Age of games, as economy usually does carry you forward. You don't have to be necessarily booming, but you need to be not forgetting about your eco and growing it together with your army, because then if you lose some units, you're gonna be able to replace them well. But if not, then you lose an army and you lose a game. But at the same time, it also needs to be said that whatever kind of like economy you have, if you do manage to lose a whole army here, then you are kinda toast anyway, and the economy is not gonna be saving you. But it's all about kind of both together working, right? Not losing an army, and at the same time also having economy to support replacements well enough. You can see on the army, Taker was kinda decent, but obviously he was on trashier units. So obviously he's gonna be higher than the knights from the French. But okay, that's gonna be there for the graphs, at least the basic ones. No, basic, there are not too many others. No, and on the score you can see that, yeah, of course, gonna be dropping because of the military, where he lost tons of units. Fortunately, didn't do that much of a significant damage to the enemy. For some better score for that. But yeah, still kind of thinking that this is a bit overshot as far as what kind of influence actually losses do have on it. Completely, and overall you can see, of course, the difference in the echo is also gonna be through the roof, with about 6, 7 and what, 5 more. So like 12,000 resources more for Pharaon again. So it's actually in the end kind of similar as the first round, but this time there were at least the spears, and that of course made for a bit more of a pause for Pharaon. And some more interesting engagements and battles where he had to be a bit more careful. At 5:30 advance though, it's a bit later. Should be trying to advance at least half a minute earlier, at the minimum I'm thinking. And I can see at the idle villager time it wasn't too terrible. But yeah, he needed the villages on way higher numbers than the 42 that he had now. At the same time, of course, from the graph, you also need to be not forgetting about the fact that there was a second TC for Pharaon, somewhere about here, when he's gonna be getting the better steps and higher steps, I guess. So it also helped him, but you can see that the difference already was starting a bit earlier than that. Okay, GG.